anybody not know what you were singing when you were singing? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. What does that mean? Anybody know? We should know what we're singing when we're singing. It's just good to sing it anyway. It's like, even if you don't know what fire is, you get hot and you get light, right? Heat and light. But it's even better when you know what it is. Anybody know what that means? Besides Sindhamani and the devotees? You know what it is? Om Namo. Om is a typical invocation mantra in the Vedas when you want to address the absolute truth. That's why all kinds of yogis and transcendentalists, everybody chants Om. And backwards it comes out as Om. Cows are sages. You better believe it. It's confirmed. So, Om Namo. So it's an address to the absolute truth. You're going to go give Balaram some attention.
I got to get the bird.
The bird is the word. Okay, so Om is an address to the absolute truth, who is all pervading. Om Namo respects, and Bhagavate means it's a reference to the personal feature of the absolute truth. The yoga literature describes three features of truth: an all-pervasive feature, a localized feature in every atom and every heart, and a personality feature, personal feature. So Om, absolute truth; Namo, respects; Bhagavate, the personality; Vasudevaya, he's such an amazing personality that he's everywhere. That means Vasudevaya means all pervading, everywhere. And also somewhere. Do you know anybody who is everywhere but also somewhere? That's hard to imagine. Just like, did anybody ever hear the story of Krishna eating dirt?
Yes.
Have you been to the place where he ate dirt? Brahmanda Ghat. So once upon a time, Krishna was accused by his friends, including Balaram, whose namesake is outside, of eating dirt. So Krishna's mother, the devotee who's playing the part of Krishna's mother, says, Krishna, open your mouth. I want to see if you've been eating dirt, like Balaram says you have. So Krishna opened his mouth. No, they were first before he opened his mouth. He said, no, I haven't been eating dirt, but they were mad at me while we were playing, so they're making up lies, stories, just to get me in trouble. So Mother Dashara said, oh yeah, okay, well, open your mouth anyway. So Krishna opened his mouth, and Yashoda looked in, and what did she see? The whole cosmic manifestation. You know that story, huh? Yeah, you can go there to the spot, still it's there by the Jamuna. And then she saw not only the whole cosmic manifestation inside Krishna, but then she saw herself holding Krishna on her lap. But there she was outside, but she was seeing it inside. So what is it? Is it, that's how we think, right? Is it inside, or is he inside, or is he outside? That's Krishna. He can be everywhere and be somewhere. So in that connection, so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, it's respect to Krishna who's inconceivable. Actually, we say the same thing. Listen to this. Check this out. We say the same thing that the materialistic scientists say, but from a different perspective. If you ask a materialistic scientist ultimate questions, like, where does it all come from? They will say, well, we're working on that, but we know that where it all comes from is infinite, eternal, and inconceivable. But when we find it, we'll put our name on it and get a Nobel Prize. So actually, we say the same thing. The absolute truth, the source of all, is eternal, infinite and inconceivable. So it's just a question of which eternal, infinite, inconceivable we want to explore. It's like, who in the room saw The Life of Pi? Did you see The Life of Pi? Interesting movie. It's actually a theistic movie. The whole movie, if you saw it, was a flashback. This fellow Pi, an Indian man, telling this kind of agnostic journalist the story of his life, because the journalist heard that Pi had an amazing story, wanted the story, for his journalism assignment. And then Pi told him the story, and if you've seen the movie, it's a big, miraculous story of how he was saved from the shipwreck, right? And then, but it was so incredible that at the end of the story, the journalist said, "It's very hard to believe, Mr. Pi." So Pi said, "Okay, then I'll tell you another way it happened." And so then Pi told another version that was more reasonable and plausible and rational. And then by the time, that was a short form. Most of the movie was about the incredible, this miraculous story. And so he gave him the short form of the story at the end. And then the journalist looked at it, because that was very believable, the short form, the rational version. And so then the journalist, kind of bewildered, because it made more sense to him, the second one, but then he started thinking about the first version, and he said, "So Pi, which one actually happened?" So raise your hand if you know what Pi said.
That's up to you.
Yes. Which one would you rather believe? The miraculous version? The inconceivable version? Or the one that made more sense? Right. So that's how it is. That's how reality is. Reality, from one perspective, is very humdrum. It's very, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The same old, da-da-da-da-da-da. With different cast of characters doing the same old. Or, as T.S. Eliot once said, to see the world in a grain of sand, or eternity in an hour. So you can see everything as miraculous if you look at it from a divine perspective. So, what we're offering, or what our foundational spiritual master, I wish there was a big picture proper here. That's your assignment. There's a little. Okay. Is what we're offering, what our foundational spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is offering, is well, let's do the verse. Here's what he's offering. I picked a verse that I thought would be nice. Okay, so it's a famous verse, and the Sanskrit sounds like this. I keep hearing that we don't know Sanskrit here, so we'll just... Oh, you like Sanskrit. You like the sound. I don't know it either. I can't read a word of Devanagari script. I just like the sound. One of our early devotees, one of Prabhupada's first disciples, said, "What's the value of Sanskrit?" He was an English professor. And so Prabhupada said, "Well, if you learn the verses in Sanskrit, they sound authoritative, and while you're chanting the verses, it gives you time to think about what you're going to say next." Very practical. Okay, so in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, the Song of Krishna, the Song of the Divine, 9th chapter, called Raja Guhyam, which means the most secret knowledge, confidential knowledge. But it's an open secret. It's for everybody. Here it is. It's in a book. But nobody wants it, so it's secret. It's secret because nobody wants it. Everybody would rather, be like a journalist. But that was the point of that movie. The journalist actually got it at the end. He got it that it's actually wiser to believe the miraculous, and it began to turn him toward a miraculous vision of reality. It was a triumph for theism. It won a lot of Academy Awards. And had a theistic message. Here's what Krishna says in 9.2. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam
Rajavidya Rajaguhyam
Pavitram Idamuttamam
Pavitram Idamuttamam
Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dharmyam
Prataksharamam Dharmam
Susukam Kartamavyayam.
Susukam Kartumavyayam.
Krishna says this knowledge is the king of education. Wow. The most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge. And because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. Well, I mean, you already experienced the proof of this even before I walked in the room and said one word. You're already tasting the joy of chanting Hare Krishna. You're already tasting the joy of vibrating divine vibrations, which are not like chanting Coca-Cola or Mary Had a Little Lamb or even a rose is a rose is a rose. Even poetic words, if they're produced of this dimension, they get stale. Time acts on them and they wear out. Whereas someone like me, please.
Yeah, keep disturbing the class.
You know, I've been chanting, and Sindamani Mata's been chanting we've been chanting for decades, but it gets fresher as long as we're hearing. Chanting more now and enjoying it less? Try hearing. What a concept. Okay. So, this knowledge is the king of education. It's the king of education because it's all about what is true. I remember when I was going to college, on the first day of philosophy class, the professor, this is back in the 1960s, so he was puffing on a cigarette, and he proudly announced, "I don't know anything." Puff, puff. And I'm thinking, why did my parents spend this money to put me in this class? He was very proud of the fact that he didn't know anything. And then Psych 101, I opened up the textbook. The first line of the textbook. Intelligence. That which intelligence tests measure. Oh, no. This is like high school. More of this. But when we come to our sweet Lord, the most intelligent designer, the most beautiful person, I mean, what would you rather believe? Okay, we just said that we believe the same things, we say the same things that the materialistic scientists say. The origin of everything is inconceivable, infinite, and eternal. So when you go down their version of that, you always come to something impersonal or void. Something impersonal or void. Whereas when you come back, you trace it to what we say, you come to this love affair. You come to this beautiful love affair between Krishna and Radha, this pleasure potency. So, why not believe that? And then, here's the trick. When you believe that, when you at least theoretically entertain the notion that that might be true, then that dancer in your heart, he starts to reveal himself to you. First, in the name, begins to dance on your tongue. What's going on with this? I can't stop chanting. All right, this knowledge is the king of education. Do you do this thing here in the Cove? Where, we have this basic, it's Krishna KC 101, It's our version of Simon Says. Do you ever do this? You point to your head. All right, everybody, trust me, all right? Point to your head. All right, point to your shoulder. Point to your knee. Point to your solar plexus. Point to yourself. Everybody gets confused. Some people go like this. Some people go like this. Some people go like this. Because we've already pointed to bodily parts, right? So then, I already did that. Right? So it's the king of education. Okay, so, Krishna talks a lot about the soul travel, reincarnation in this book. Okay, it's not a Hindu superstition. It's a very simple thing. We can all remember, or we don't remember, but we all take it on the authority of our mother, that we were in her tummy, right? But we don't remember that at all. And now here we are sitting here, and all the cells that have been surrounding us have replaced themselves many times. Medical scientists say every 7 years, depending on the nature of the cells. So none of us will deny that we were in our mother's wombs, but no cell that's surrounding us now is in our mother's womb. So what does that mean? Who are we? Yeah, we're that unseen seer. And yet, as Prabhupada says in the purport, listen to this. This is a many-page, what our spiritual master would call purports, commentaries, which are not interpretations. He's simply holding up his magnifying glass to the verse and drawing out what we can't see by a succession of teachers traceable all the way back to Krishna. So, Prabhupada writes, generally people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge, just like I said, external philosophy, psychology. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments, and these are all valid departments, but they're not complete. Prabhupada said they're like so many beautiful zeros. Listen to these departments. Politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering. Very valuable things. But unless they're connected with where they come from, the most intelligent designer, the source of all intelligence and knowledge, incomplete. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. We're looking at each other, we're not really seeing each other completely because we're seeing each other's bodies. And maybe we're seeing, oh, this is a very attractive person, but, if I should suddenly, for example, just depart on the spot, it happens, these things happen. The same person that you see is animated, moving his hand, the body would just drop, and you wouldn't want to touch it. It's a corpse. It's suddenly become a corpse. So it's really the soul that we're attracted to. And because the soul is part of God or Krishna, that's what we're ultimately attracted to. Krishna is the active principle in everything. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. What about the mind? I once read a book called How to Read a Book by a philosopher named Mortimer Adler. And here's why I read the book. It's because I had an assignment to edit a book by a dear friend. I saw you have it here. Ruther, A Daughter Strikes. I had a god-sister named Leka Shrivanti, and she was the daughter of a famous person who's, you don't know because you're too young. But you've all heard of Henry Ford, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So as Henry Ford and the automakers in Detroit were making their fortune, the plight of the workers was noticed by some compassionate labor leaders, so they organized at peril of their life. And one of these labor leaders became famous as the Gandhi of the American labor movement. His name was Walter Reuther, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. So he was the father of our god-sister Lisa Reuther, or Leka Shrivanti. So she wrote a book about her father's life called Reuther, A Daughter Strikes. It's a pun on, striking labor people. And she was also striking out on her own. So I knew she's a friend, so I didn't want to, I had never edited a book, so I wanted to do a good job. So before I read her manuscript, I saw this title, How to Read a Book. And I wanted to really get everything I could out of reading her manuscript, so I read a book by How to Read a Book. Okay, so the whole thing is this philosopher from New York named Mortimer Adler. He said, when you read a book, you've got to read it for content, and you've got to read it for intent, then you got to read it for beauty, and you got to read it for, you have to read a book many times. I mean, who has the time to do all this? But so That was his. And then you have to read all the great books of the world, the classics, because they will take you higher and higher and higher and higher. And then you die. And then that's how the paragraph ended. And then I started to go to the next paragraph. Wait a minute, Mort. What do you mean, and then you die? So what good is reading these books? That's it? And then you die? I might as well not have read anything. I might as well have been a wino in the street. You mean, they take you, the life of the mind, these great classics, they will take you higher, or not, but then you die. So what good is it? So when you give up the futile pursuit, it says in the Gita, in Krishna's divine song, of just trying to enjoy yourself on the physical plane, that's one level, or even the mental plane, or even the plane of mystic powers. Everybody heard of Mao Zedong? Anybody not heard of Mao Zedong? Okay, he was a Chinese Communist Party revolutionary who started the People's Republic of China in 1949. And he was famous for the little red books, Mao Speaks, sayings of Chairman Mao. And his wife was pretty powerful too. You know what she said? Most people are bewildered by sex because they've never tasted power. Wow. The ultimate intoxicant. So when we're done, when we realize that the same old in relation to the body is also the same old in relation to the mind, is also the same old in relation to having mystic powers. In other words, when we're fed up and exhausted with trying to exploit and enjoy what's actually God's energy, and we do an about face, and we really want to get to know the personality behind all this, the most secret of all secrets, then we're getting a little intelligent. Otherwise, it's the same old. Life is hard, and then you die. Thank you very much, Mort. These books will take you on higher and higher, and then you die. And then he just went on like he hadn't said anything, like it was okay. Okay, so I heartily encourage everyone to read Bhagavad Gita as it is, because you will find in the Bhagavad Gita the perfection of yoga, religion, philosophy, science, psychology, any field you can imagine, you will find it perfected in this sacred conversation. That's a pretty tall claim, so I want you to investigate that. Don't take my word for it. Just do it, as our spiritual master would say. Long before Neki said it, actually. Just do it. Does anybody have any questions so far? I got a new watch today. How do you like my new watch?
You got this watch?
I got this watch. It won't save me at the time of death, but it'll tell me what time I die. One time, nobody's raising their hand, so I'm going to just give a little story here. Our Srila Prabhupada, he was in Vrindavan, Krishna's hometown. Of course, Krishna's everywhere. He's somewhere. He's in our hearts. He's in Golok. He's there with Radha. He's everywhere. But when he comes to earth, he chooses to land in a particular neighborhood. If you're in Vrindavan, if you want to call God, it's a local call. So Prabhupada, he had his house at the Krishna Balaram temple. So one fine day, a magician walked into Prabhupada's house. Yeah, somebody knows magic. And so Prabhupada was giving what we call a darshan, audience, with the devotees, and Prabhupada was answering questions. This magician comes in. Who are you? What do you do? I'm a magician. Let us have some fun. So Prabhupada, he has the guy do his tricks. But the devotees didn't like it. Because it appeared that that the magician was doing tricks at the expense of Prabhupada, because he was making things appear out of Prabhupada's ear, and bewildering, and Prabhupada didn't know how things were happening. So the devotees were getting mad. He's making Prabhupada look foolish, and we don't like this. But Prabhupada was laughing. Prabhupada thought it was so funny that this guy was doing these tricks, And the guy, he was going on, and then he finally ran out of his repertoire. He finished his repertoire. He sat down, and see, Prabhupada was setting him up. Prabhupada always did that. So Prabhupada said, so, magic that will stop death? You know magic that will stop death. And the guy was stunned, he didn't know what to say. Oh, I don't know a trick that I can escape death. Then I am better magician. And then he talked to the guy. He talked to him about how by restoring our consciousness to pure Krishna consciousness, when we leave our bodies, then we go to Krishna, because that's how it works. Hamlet, Shakespeare? You know what Shakespeare calls Hamlet? Shakespeare has Hamlet call sleep. He refers to sleep as death's counterfeit. Like when we go to sleep at night, we actually lose consciousness of our waking identities, right? We might combine things we've seen in our waking state and go on some fantastic voyage somewhere, just in mind, right? So it's a little mini preview of death, because Krishna says in the Gita, Yang yang va pismanam bhavam yajat yante kalevaram tam tam evati kaunteya satata bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when one quits the body, that state one will attain without fail. So it's just like when you go to sleep, whatever you've been absorbed in, that's what you tend to dream about. That's the way it works. Same when we actually leave our body for good, when we change it for good, consciousness carries us to another term of existence. So that's why we say this is the perfection of philosophy, science, yoga, art, whatever you can think of, because everybody's really tending toward, they want something that's going to last, that's transcendent, right? So this is the perfection of all that. And the good news is that whatever we like to do, like, what's your favorite activity? Besides eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We know we're all very good at that. What's your favorite work, kind of activity? Everybody has their thing, their sweet spot, their trance.
I'm not type of thing on the spot.
Okay. It takes introspection.
Yeah.
Here's a hint. What's that activity doing which, besides eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, we're doing which you forget time?
Yeah. Chanting.
Chanting?
Yeah, helps you
Oh,
forget time.
okay. Well, you're my guru. I wish I was there. Okay. All right. So, yeah, the good news is that whatever we really like to do, whatever we've come into this world to do, we all have some calling, even if we haven't really discovered it yet. Just like I saw in a church marquee once. It said, your body is God's gift to you. Cycle. So that's the perfection of whatever we like to do. We don't just do it for money or profit, adoration, distinction, or whatever we do in this world. We do it out of love for our supreme beloved who gave us that talent and that ability to do that. So that's the good news. In bhakti, we don't have to, stop doing what we like to do. We just have to learn how to do it in yoga, in spiritual discipline, so that instead of dragging us down and disappointing us, we do it, because everything, the profit, the adoration, the distinction, that all goes. Fame, if you win it, comes and goes in a minute. See, now I'm really dating myself. But listen to that song. Make someone happy, make one someone happy. They're talking about, ultimately, it's Krishna. That's how we become happy, by reconnecting with our beloved source. All the songs, it's all about Krishna, they just don't know it. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Still waiting for a call. Yeah.
Kind of. I showed up late, so I don't know how this started, but...
Neither do I. I just walked in and somebody was singing. They were rocking out and Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So yeah, that chant that you were just now saying, I'm trying to, because this is my first time coming on a Thursday night,
Okay.
and
Me too. I guess.
and Thursdays, I'm learning a little bit. Thursdays ruled by Jupiter, which is the guru.
Guru planet, you're right.
So I was wondering if
Brihaspati.
that's what, maybe if there was an element of that going on with this.
I don't know. That's Sandama. Is that your design?
Not exactly, but they said that Thursday's the new Friday, so something like that. So Thursday's a good day. People start the weekend early. So.
Okay. It also means gurus are cool. You know, gurus know how to party. They start on Thursday. The difference between us and ordinary party people, we party in the morning. And most people party at night. You can't, yes, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just, curious to learn as much as I can. I'm getting a lot from the Bhagavad Gita. I haven't covered all of it yet in the book, and I'm just wondering,
Me too.
about guru worship. I mean, things like that. I know it's, I'm just not clear on a lot of it.
Sure.
But guru worship, I'm sure there's the personal aspect of it, but then also the deity aspect of it.
Okay, well, when we party in the morning, we say, one of the songs we sing, Sakshad Haritve Samasta Shastre Rupastapta Bhavyate Vasadhi. Sakshad Haritva means that I worship my spiritual master because he's of the same quality as the Lord. Not that he is God. In fact, we just did a thing. Anyway, I'll just tell you. He's like God's ambassador, a guru, or rep, sales rep. And he's selling God. Right? And so when an ambassador is in, say the ambassador from India walked in here, we would treat him with the same respect and dignity that we would treat the Prime Minister of India, because he's representing India. So that's the idea of the guru. An authentic guru. We're not talking about a bogey yogi or a false guru, but a real authentic guru is to be offered all the respect of God, because he can give us God. He can bring us back home to God. So that's what guru worship is. The way Srila Prabhupada introduced it into our particular ISKCON organization, 1966, and he said, so tomorrow we'll have initiation. This was the first, time. So they didn't know what he was talking about. They were just brand new, like you, right? They'd been chanting Hare Krishna all summer, and they knew they were in touch with something divine, and that's about all they knew. They're trying to stay high forever. That was their motive. No more come down. That was the ads. Initiation, Prabhupada said. Initiation means that the guru agrees to take charge of the disciple, guide the disciple, and the disciple agrees to worship the spiritual master as God. Any question? And see, he was dropping a bomb purposely, so that they would ask what you just asked. What does that mean, or how does that work? But they were too stunned even to. Prabhupada saw they couldn't move, and so he just got up, walked out of the ashram, the temple, walked up to his apartment, and left them there to think about it. And they thought, and thought, thought, until one of them finally went up to his room and said, what did you mean by that? Because you were always telling us, Prabhupada, or Swamiji, they call him Swamiji, you're always telling us that one who says he's God is dog. If somebody claims to be God, he's as good as dog. So Prabhupada was waiting for that question of clarification. So he said, just what I said. It means he's representing God. He can deliver God to you. So you offer him the same respect as God. Not that he is God. God is God. But the Guru is his representative. Is that clear? And it was. So the next day they went ahead and with confidence took initiation, although they still didn't really know much what they were doing. They went ahead, at least they trusted him. Yeah, the difficulty in the modern age is that there's so much counterfeit that people just reject out of hand, they dismiss out of hand, the notion of guru or authority or anything, because it's just so much cheating and so much, falsity. But just because there's so much counterfeit around doesn't mean there isn't the real thing. So that's what we say, look, Chris is the real deal. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's supreme, it's full of majesty, but he's a personality. It's full of intimacy too. That's Prabhupada's great contribution to the theological conversation of the modern world. He translated the Sanskrit word Bhagavan as Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's a mouthful, and that's revolutionary. We've heard of the word God, but Supreme Personality, what's that all about? And so when you read the Gita or we study Srimad Bhagavatam, we find out that there's so many aspects to the Absolute Truth. Krishna has this all-pervasive spiritual aspect which you can access when you chant Om, and you come in touch with that eternality aspect. People in Jnana Mudra, they sit there in lotus or half lotus. And you can realize the all-pervasiveness and the oneness of the truth. But that's just the beginning. And then yogis, real yogis, when they engage in mystic meditation, and it's not even so practical for this age, it's hard to find a secluded place. Krishna outlines in chapter 6, text 12 through 32, the real, rigid, austere mystic yoga system, and it just knocked your socks off. You couldn't even touch it. And maybe it's possible for a few Himalayan yogis, but Arjuna said, I can't do this. But even if you do perfect that, what you do is you find not only is there an all-pervasive spiritual energy, but you begin to see the person in your heart who's radiating all that energy. It's like a local aspect of God in your heart. But then the ultimate realization is Bhagavan. He's the person who we see depicted in the paintings. Prabhupada called these paintings windows to the spiritual world. He's off in his own realm, playing a flute and dancing and herding cows. So there's many aspects to the Absolute Truth. The first sentence of the sequel to the Gita is a book we study called Srimad Bhagavatam, whose many volumes you see right over your head, young lady. Very beautiful. The first sentence to the first verse of the 18,000 verse Bhagavatam means beautiful story of the personality of Godhead. In his first line of the commentary, Prabhupada says, the conception of God and the conception of the Absolute Truth are not on the same level. God just means controller, supreme being, and there's so much more to it. But you don't find that out until you come to Veda, specifically Gita and Bhagavatam. It's la creme de la creme. Cream of the cream. Sure, thank you. So, Guru, don't be afraid of it, because you should be cautious, like Prabhupada said. If you want gold, first you have to have the preliminary knowledge of what gold is. Otherwise, somebody can easily sell you fool's gold. So before we accept a spiritual master, we find out what a bona fide spiritual master is. And then, with eyes wide open with a cool head, we can see who's And Arjuna said this to Krishna. Arjuna uvacha stita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stititi kim prabhashita kimasita brajeta kim. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one? What are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is submerged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk?" Arjuna asked a very external question, how we can tell by, external signs. Krishna gave a very internal answer. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kama Sarvan Partamanovatam Atmanivatmana Tushtak Stita Pradyastadachita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O Arjuna, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire, which arise from mental concoction," doesn't mean you give up desire, but desire that arises from mental concoction. I'll explain that in a minute. And when the mind finds satisfaction in the self, that means the spirit alone, then that person is in pure transcendental consciousness. So usually we're used to deriving our happiness through our identification with the body, the dense body, or the subtle mind, or the mystic powers, latent potential in the spirit. But when we actually find our joy in our everlasting relationship with our beloved source, Krishna, that never ends. Then that's really intelligent. So
if you do find a good guru that you want to give thanks back to,
once you found him, build your world around him. Yeah, that's right. Because he can give you back your lover, Krishna. We're all looking for. We're lonely here in this material. It's a lonely place.
is it an emotive thing, or are there chanting?
It's everything. It's emotion, it's intellect, it's heart and soul. And the way you understand who a bona fide guru is, like for example in our Sangha here. And this is part of the seminar I'm traveling around teaching. I'm cautioning people, before you aspire to connect with a guru, get to know your foundational spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who can wake you up about what a bona fide guru is. And not only that, Prabhupada can give you hints about who's best for you. Because even if you have a bona fide spiritual master out there, that doesn't mean necessarily you and that person are going to connect as guru-disciple. It's kind of like, in fact, the first complete Bhagavad Gita lecture that Prabhupada gave that was recorded on the 2nd of March 1966 in the Bowery of all places in New York City. Prabhupada compared looking for a guru like a person looking for a mate. So even if there's a nice girl, for example, and a nice boy, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to work as husband and wife or as soulmates. Everybody's different, so you have to know what the absolute truth is. You have to know what a bona fide guru is, and you have to know yourself in relationship. This is all just on the platform of knowledge. And then when you have some knowledge, then you can begin to enter into an authentic relationship. It takes time. And it takes, we say, bhakti is art for the heart and science for the head. It's religion and philosophy. You need both. If you just have religion, then it's just sentimental. I mean, we're sentient beings, but if we're not actually have knowledge, we can easily be misled. Just like a girl or a boy can easily be misled by their infatuations, right? So it takes time. But the more you study and the more you relate to people, you get to know who a bona fide guru is. Speaking of bona fide gurus, this is my guru, Krishna Prasad. Prabhupada told us flat out, you have all come because of prasadam. You're a food guru. What do? We keep doing a Q&A while people start Okay. Do you sing a song? Or what do we? We sing a song of grace? Or do we just start? Yeah? Alright. So those of us who know the Bengali will sing Sharira vidya jao judendriya dhanekal jive phile nisayasagore Tamade jivati labhamoy sudurmati Takitita sthita samsare Krishna godalo jamoy Parivare jiva joy Swaprasadam nilabhai Seyanamrita bhao Radha Krishna gunagao Premedako Sri Chaitanya Nitya Sri Krishna Prasad Ki Jai. The gist of the prayer, there's many levels of meaning, is that everybody likes to eat, right? I mean, you have to eat to live. And the prayer says that the most voracious sense is the tongue. We want something nice to eat, right? And Krishna knows that. And so he's very kind. He's given us the best food in the world to eat. And what's the secret ingredient? People say, what do you put in this food? And you can't buy it at the store. What we put in the food ultimately is bhakti. That means love. It means our divine love. You can't buy that. That's what goes into the food. That's the ultimate ingredient. That's why it's so good. Yeah, boy, he knows that. So, the very activity which tends to get us in trouble, if we eat anything and everything, we'll get sick, or we get bad karma, because it's products of cruelty, or it's not good for us somehow. If we take Krishna food, wow, you become godly. It helps. You just by eating, you get. This is yoga. It's an aspect of our yoga. So they call us the kitchen religion.
For people that don't take to Krishna consciousness in one lifetime, what's the benefit of eating prasad for them?
That was once announced to a famous person. It was a famous. Has everybody heard? This is really dating myself. Have you ever heard of Timothy Leary, so-called LSD guru, who founded the League for Spiritual Discovery, LSD? So he was taking prasad once at a temple in Montreal, Canada, and the devotee sitting next to him said, Dr. Leary, did you know that just by taking Krishna food, you will be spared having to come back as a ghost? So immediately, Dr. Leary spit out the food and put it up. No, I want to experience all experience. I wouldn't mind being a ghost. So you know how when he left, he had, what his will was? He was cremated, and he insisted, he had the money to do it, that his ashes be rocketed into space to permanently orbit the Earth. If you don't think that's a ghostly existence, yeah, that's the beauty of Krishna Yoga, that when you come and you can, by chanting or by reading or by eating, you just come in a little contact with Krishna. You're sort of on the way, and there's no stopping that. Once you start, you might try to forget about it for a while, and you will. You can as much as you want, but you'll always come back to a human body to ask those gnawing, nagging questions. Why? What kind of fool am I? Right? More songs. Why? Why am I suffering? Why? I want to be happy all the time. How come I can't be happy all the time in this material world, darn it? And then even if you think it's great here, here's the ultimate kick. You can't stay there. You kick out. Imagine, even if you find your soulmate on the material level, what pain, when one of those soulmates dies. Yeah. So please dive in. Take prasad. So yeah. No ghost. It's very frustrating being a ghost. A ghost means that you forfeited your gross body, but you still have gross desires. So your only pleasure is inhabiting other gross bodies to try to experience pleasure in their gross bodies. That's why people get possessed. Yeah, it's really a hellish existence, and you're frustrated.
If an entity in their astral body or subtle body, if they hear the vibration of Krishna, can they immediately go to Krishna? Because they're in their subtle form.
Immediately go to Krishna. Anything's possible. Krishna can do anything. Sure. Usually, the way it is that you have to matriculate, as they say, at Pima or UA. Yeah, you got to take the course. we have a course. Krishna has a course of study. It's like the Alcoholics Anonymous have a 12-step program, right? To recover from their addiction to alcohol. So we're all addicted to trying to mate our material senses with material sense objects. But there's a way, this is Krishna's beauty again, there's a way to eat, sleep, mate, and defend even, in such a way that instead of degrading ourselves, we get elevated spiritually. So I forgot your question. Oh yeah,
So if you
go
play
straight.
I played Prabhupada. When we were in college, we had a house that had some activity. It was kind of boring, but there was entities there. But and my inclination was, I'll just play Prabhupada, and maybe they'll attain Krishna. So because they're in this subtle form.
Yeah, Prabhupada would say you free them from their ghostly existence, but that means that at least they get a human body to ask the questions and hopefully get the answer. There's a verse in the Gita 11:36. See, it's up to the individual. Like we said, can they go straight to Krishna? It's very individual. 11:36. Arjuna says, Stane Rishikesha Deva Prakirtya Jagat Parushyatya Nirajyate Cha Rakshamsi Vitani Disho Dravanti Sarve Namasyamti Cha Siddha Sangha. Arjuna says, Oh Krishna, oh Rishikesh, oh Master of the senses, the whole world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. But then he says, but Rakshamsi Vitani Disho Dravanti. But the demons flee here and there. They can't stand it because when you're too hateful, when your karma is circumstantially put you in a hateful space, you can't stand anything divine. You're too covered by dark modes. But the demons flee here and there. Oh, this is rightly done. So, we're in a good space here. We're like at the airport. If I'm going to fly on Monday to Gainesville, Florida. So to do that, I got to go to the airport. That's a good place to catch a plane. So you're in a good place to transcend. This is the airport here. This is the launch pad. So, yeah.
So some people, when you're describing like in that book, and then you die, and some people they don't
get it.
They don't get it because they see, oh, you're depressing, you're morbid,
Yeah.
So, but it's because they don't understand the other world, right? They don't understand the spiritual pleasure.
Not only that, they don't understand that they could die any second. They're intoxicated. In this material world, we're living in a state of forgetfulness. When George Harrison, who was the devotee, he's pretty recent. I'm not dating myself too much. 1999, George was almost lost his life because a deranged fan stabbed him. Remember that? No, go back that far. He was at his house, Henley on Tyne, Friar Park. He was there with Olivia. They were resting. That was night. And all of a sudden, they hear a crash. And this guy comes in the house. He broke in. Somehow he got in, through all the alarms and the security. And he pounced on George, and he stabbed him many times. And one incision almost, was almost fatal. And so after George had healed, the press asked him what it was like, what were you thinking of? So George took it as an opportunity to preach. Krishna consciousness, or I guess teach, because you don't want to be too preachy, right? You know, teach. So George said, and George said to the press, he was paraphrasing a devotee saint from the Middle Ages, who said in a song, Kamala Jala Dala Jivana Talamala, life is as precarious as a drop of water on a lotus leaf. So George said to the press, oh, you know, life is as precarious as a raindrop on a lily leaf, you know. He's trying to wake up the reporter. Hey, you gotta forget death to be happy in this world. You know, there's two kinds of happy people. They say there's the enlightened person and the fool. Where ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise, says the poet. So, you know, for all our gadgets and gizmos and airplanes and computers, I mean, that's fine, but if it makes us forget what's going on here, that at every second, while we think we're manipulating matter to enjoy more and more, we're getting beat the same old way we've always been beat, by time, by old age, disease, and death. We're not, it's not progress. So, but we can use all those same things too, in Krishna service, all the technology, and that's how I'm here. I was in Hawaii last week, now I'm here. So congratulations. I once offered prasad to a guy at the University of Florida campus. This was when I was a young man in the 70s. And I said, have some Krishna prasad. No thanks, man. I'm into dog food, man. That was the in thing then. He was eating dog food. It was real natural. Just live like a dog. You know, so if we eat food fit for animals, we become like that. And if you eat food fit for God, you restore your godly. So we're very lucky people. But our business is to try to invite others to become lucky too. Yeah. Okay, very nice to meet you. And we're going to have another lesson tomorrow from this seminar. It's going to be all about a special kind of guru called a founder acharya, which means a guru of gurus, a master of masters. And how that concept evolved from the Middle Ages, basically, 1500s, down to the present day, and how, and then the lesson after that, which we'll do at this devotee Gangeya's house on Friday night, we're going to look at how our foundational guru in ISKCON, what he did, no even master of masters ever did, no avatar ever did.